ladies. Very good afternoon. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I had to apologise. I couldn't lower down the bloody music. It's Niall Boylan with you for the next hour or so. Anyway, it's a kind of funny day today, isn't it? Because out of an available electorate within the party membership of 3,425 people who are eligible to vote for the new Green Party leader, a total of 1,896 members voted, which means the other 1,529 were either on holidays or they didn't bother their flutes voting. The outcome, of course, was Roderick O'Gorman as the new party leader. Only in Ireland could you be in charge of a department where, let's be clear, the Department of Integration is in chaos. Absolute chaos. So we can only assume he's making a bollocks of the job. Well, there has been suggestions he should resign because he's not doing a very good job at it. He might think he's doing a good job. But do you get promoted internally to be leader of the party? That's bizarre, isn't it? Only in Ireland that could happen. Anyway, and also, by the way, speaking of the Green Party, the weather is still shite, can I just say. It's only 15 degrees today. It's July. I know people keep saying, no, there's a difference between weather and climate. I'm well aware of that. But the two are intrinsically linked, aren't they? I mean, the average temperature over the last 6 or 7 weeks has been dismal. Anyway, we get onto that another time. What I wanted to do was read out this email. And it's not the first email I've got like this. I've actually had many of them. But we purposely avoided it for the month of June because we kind of took a conscious effort because my producer is gay and he hates the whole idea of this kind of Pride Month, right? He doesn't associate with it at all. And he keeps saying to me, oh, don't do it. Oh, please don't. I'm mortified. Anyway, hi, Niall. I love your show and I love all the opinions of the show. And it's a breath of fresh air. I noticed you didn't talk about Pride Month at all in June. And I was glad to hear that, to be honest. I'm a gay man, always knew I was gay since I was a child and now my 40s. I'm happily married to a wonderful man, but we're both professionals with good jobs. I'm not sure why that's important, but maybe it is, as I don't go to my job in the accountancy as accountant dressed in pink shirts or rainbow flags and pins adorning my body. I find the whole Pride thing quite embarrassing and humiliating. Even in work, 1 or 2 people said Happy Pride to me last month, and I find that embarrassing. I don't say happy hetero to anybody as I don't believe my sexuality identifies me. Myself and my husband avoid Pride at all costs, and I'll be honest, it's the one time of the year that we don't want to hold hands in public, if that makes any sense. We're just two normal, everyday blokes who want to get on with our lives, and I don't want to be associated with the feminine stereotype of the flamboyant bloke running around dressed in bright colours. Some of the carry-on of the parades is truly humiliating to watch, as it doesn't represent me or my husband or our relationship for that matter. The latest part of the Pride, of course, is the TQ bit, which I don't align with. And I don't align with any community, to be honest. But to see men dressed as women and identify as women, and to suggest that there is a link with me and my sexuality is nothing short of madness. No more than I believe heterosexual people are all swingers, for example, if you get my gist. The public think all gay men are effeminate and act like women, and this is heavily promoted and perpetrated by the Pride Month. I heard they want to extend it now to 6 months. Will you stop, for God's sake? Can you please ask gay listeners to come on? And I bet most of them feel the same way about Pride. Regards, Tom. Now, I don't know why if you believed it's the same, is Pride over the top? Well, no, that's not really a good question. But does Pride truly represent the gay community? Or if you're gay, do you feel like you're part of a community? I mean, I'm not part of the heterosexual community. I'm just heterosexual. I don't have to be part of a community. I don't think there is a heterosexual community. It's just being heterosexual. Actually, there isn't even a being heterosexual. No, I've never stated in my life to anybody, by the way, I'm heterosexual. It's not something I do. And I said this a long time ago, actually around the time of, when we were talking about gay marriage and marriage equality, that I would like to see a world in 30 years where there's no such word as gay and there's no such word as heterosexual. We're just people who are attracted to each other, be they male, female, same sex. It doesn't really matter. I mean, there shouldn't be a difference. We shouldn't be talking about it like there's some sort of difference. But answer me this question. Do you believe Pride is relevant anymore? Now, Pride has been going on for a long time, and the original idea was being proud of being gay and not being ashamed of it. And I understand the point of that going back to the 1970s, or certainly up to the 1990s, where it was illegal to be gay in Ireland. But do you believe Pride is relevant now, or is it completely over the top? Let me know what you think. The number is 085 122 55. That's 085 122 55. Joining me is Derek Byrne, who is an academic and journalist, and also Clarity Mills, the founder of Kinkify Me. Thank you both for joining us, and we'll take your calls as well. Let me go to you first, Derek. Derek, as a gay man,
Good morning.
As a gay man, does Pride, I mean, are you proud of Pride? That's probably a good question, isn't it? Are you proud of Pride?
There's so much in what you just spoke about. I think when I look at Pride now in 2024, it's not what I identify with. And I mean, you're talking about someone who led the Pride Parade in 2004 at the age of 39. And I took my T-shirt off and wore a pink feather boa. And that was shocking 20 years ago. But the thing is, like I came out in 1985, so the whole thing of gay pride marches in Dublin was very new then. But it's fundamentally what it was about was visibility. It was about walking the streets and saying to other gay people or other LGBT people that, listen, we're here. There are others like you. I grew up in Ireland where I thought I was the only gay person. So it is important that people know there are people like them in the world. And when we look at, for instance, at the latest Being LGBT in Ireland, the Belong To report of Trinity College 2 months ago, I think, was launched. The incidence of anxiety, depression, stress, self-harm, suicidal ideation and suicide are much higher among the LGBT population than they are in mainstream society. So I don't think, in terms of debating this, that it is a simple issue. We have to look at, why are we out there in the first place? It is about visibility. But has it become something else? And I think it has. I think the commercialization of the Pride Parade has destroyed it and made it something that it should not be. So yes,
I mean, the idea of, okay, but the idea of, Garda cars being painted in rainbow flags and fire engines and, flags everywhere. I mean, don't get me wrong, look, whatever floats your boat. But this guy is saying that basically what it does, it paints a picture of gay men as being effeminate. And I'm not going to disagree with that, because if you look at the Pride Parade, that's kind of what it does, that every gay man must be flamboyant and into rainbow colours. And if we look across the Atlantic, of course, at some of the Pride Parades in America, I mean, they're not Pride Parades, they're fetish parades. Yeah. I mean, there was one parade in San Francisco where they're peeing on each other in the middle of the street. And I'm going, I mean, the Emperor's got new clothes here, I mean, some of it's just bizarre.
Well, you see a lot of it now because of the whole wokeism and you're not allowed to criticize, otherwise you're homophobic. I mean, I find this even as a gay man, as somebody who, because of what I happen to say as a journalist, has been dubbed the most hated gay in the village. It's ridiculous to think that as gay men or women or transgender or bisexual, that we all think the same way. I mean, I remember, simply because I questioned the whole issue of marriage equality, I was a bad gay. Oh, you should, you're not supposed to say, you can say what you like, but don't say it now. This idea that
the same thing happened to Paddy Manning, of course. Paddy Manning was, he campaigned against gay marriage at the time, and of course, he was a bad gay. Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is that we have to accept that we think differently. Now, in relation to the person who wrote into you, I totally agree with him. I find that I as the kind of gay man I am, the sort of like the man next door type of thing. I feel disenfranchised by the so-called LGBT communities. There is not one community. It's pretty divided group of communities. Well, I suppose like the heterosexual community, you want to call it. I mean, some heteros are swingers, some are into fetishes, some are quite straight, normal, and you know what I mean. They don't get into all that kind of stuff. So everybody's a bit different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we don't have a monopoly on sexual experimentation and all of that. But I do think that
Pride kind of says you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's wrong.
Okay, well, hang on. Just let me bring Clarity in. Clarity Mills is the founder of Kinkify Me, no stranger to kinks. Clarity, hi. How are you?
Good. How are you, Niall?
Clarity, is it time to kind of end this kind of promotion, as Derek would say, you know, something that doesn't really represent him as a gay man anymore. This kind of idea of this stereotypical effeminate, you know, fetish type thing that we have in Pride.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I disagree fundamentally, but not for similar reasons. I understand that it's distasteful. So to qualify myself, I am a bisexual woman. I was the event manager for Los Angeles Pride from 2011 to 2013. I was a suicide and crisis prevention counselor for the Trevor Project in Los Angeles, which is an LGBTQ suicide and crisis prevention. I've been involved in GLAAD, the LA Gay and Lesbian Center, involved in different LGBT charities all over the world. And so I have started and been involved in Pride for the last 2 decades of my life, and also as a person who's a part of that rainbow. I think it's really important. Like if you go to Amnesty International and you ask, what is the purpose? Do we still need it? And I completely agree with Derek's point about the commercialization. It's super cringe. And I would agree that, you know, people are rainbow washing themselves. You know, you see Primark, you know, making a fortune off of slave child labor.
Yeah.
Clothing products covered in rainbows and things like that. Yeah, exactly. And I think the commercialization of it is ridiculous. However, if you go to a lot of the think tanks and groups that audit and see, like, how efficient are nonprofits and how efficient are social movements as far as supporting the cause that they pertain to support. And what you find with Pride entities, because they're different nonprofits in different cities and different countries all over the world, is that they actually do a huge amount of advocacy before and after. And I'm not talking about 6 months of the parade never ends, yay. I'm talking about they create spaces, safe spaces for people. They do a huge amount of outreach and awareness for sexual health, for you know, hate crime support, for sexual assault and trauma support, for young individuals who are struggling with the LGBTQ community that struggles with suicide and ideation and suicide at higher rates, drastically higher rates than the rest of the community, as Derek Preston's before. And they do a huge amount of work. And the reason why we still need these spaces and this out and proud is because people are still attacked today because of gender and sexual orientation.
But do you think when you look at, say, the Pride Parade, and we'll use America as an example, not Ireland, because we're not as bad in Ireland.
Sure.
I'm looking at some of the Pride Parades there was one in New York where there's a load of lads walking down the street with their Mickeys hanging out, right? And the one in San Francisco where they have paddling pools where they're weeing on each other, right? Now, that's not representative of you. It's not representative of Derek. It's not representative of most 99% of gay people in this world. But yet that's what's promoted in Pride, particularly in America, in places like San Francisco, New York and Los Angeles. Certainly not here, but still here. The idea that you walk down the street, you know, dressed in kind of rainbow colours or quite effeminate is still not representative of a lot of people who are texting in who are saying, I'm gay, this doesn't represent me. And you're saying, you know, that obviously you were an advocate for, you know, anti-hate crime and all that kind of thing. I think this kind of thing perpetrates, you know, those who would be on the margins, who are homophobic, it makes them even worse because they get wound up by the whole thing.
Yeah, and you can see the idea that the campness of it, the tackiness of it, the ostentatiousness of it, it can be a polarizing aspect of it. I mean, the reason why those things are those, you know, fetish parades and so forth are the things that get the headlines is because it's sensationalism and it's journalism behind that. As a person who's been to San Francisco Pride and New York Pride, I can tell you that represents about like 5% of what is a 5-hour parade. So it's fairly insignificant when you look at proportion, but of course what catches headlines and stigmatizes
well, it's in a public place, Clarity. It's in a public place. Yeah. Of course it's going to catch headlines when you've got lads walking down the street in the nude. Nobody else would be allowed to do that, and you wouldn't be allowed to do it any other time of the year. You'd be arrested.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I agree that it's different, more appropriate ways to express those different, as a person who's a Kingster, but the kind of, to be incensed because it feels like it doesn't represent me, as a person who is married, who is a bisexual, who does not want children, it would be like me saying, I think weddings are absolutely tacky, you know, in my face. Rub your hetero privilege in my face. I'm boycotting weddings.
But weddings are not a hetero privilege, by the way. Derek can get married tomorrow, and if he wants to put on a white dress,
I'm just saying, any kind of stereotype of whatever. It doesn't. The point is, it's whatever it is, it's symbolic, right?
But isn't that the whole idea? We want to get rid of stereotypes. I mean, a wedding. I don't believe a wedding is a hetero stereotype. Sure, we only voted 7 years ago to let gay men and women get married. Sorry, Derek, what are you trying to say there? Sorry.
No, I am available for marriage. If anyone is interested.
If anyone wants to know.
Really, really interesting listening to that. I kind of forgot I was on the show for a minute. But, I think the thing is to remember, too, is that Pride is both a celebration and a protest. So we have to make space for both of those things. And it's important that we do have the visibility because it's absolutely right. Members of the community are still attacked and are still subject to discrimination. And we have to remind people that that's just not right. It's just not on. Particularly, a country like Ireland, which has some fantastic equality legislation, there are parts of our society that need to catch up with that. And never forget, as I keep saying, 1/3 of people voted against marriage equality. So there's still a sizable minority out there. But
but that was 7 years ago. Do it again tomorrow, and I guarantee you it'll be a much smaller percentage. Much smaller percentage.
I totally agree with you. Yeah. I think it was more to the marriage equality referendum than allowing marriage equality. But it's kind of like, where do we go to now? I think what I would call on in terms of those groups who advocate for members of the LGBT communities in Ireland to go back to the drawing board and think about what is it we're trying to achieve with our Pride. I think they need to get rid of the commercialisation of Pride. It does not serve as somebody who.
Can we bring it down to one day like it used to be? Do we have to have a month? Do we need a month of this?
Well, actually, believe it or not, I'm going down to Limerick this afternoon for Limerick Pride. We have a Pride season now, which runs from the end of May to about the end of August.
Jesus.
Well, because there are different Pride events happening around the country, and you can't have them all together.
Well, could you not just have it like the way we have St. Patrick's Day? Can you not just have one day? Why do we need a month or a season, or as some people have suggested, 6 months of the year? You know what I mean? It just seems, clarity, it just seems over the top. Yeah. It's unnecessary. What it's doing is, I think it's having the opposite effect.
Maybe that needs to be looked at, but I think at the moment, what it does is, when LGBT organisations are organising their Pride, it galvanises people.
No, what it does, gay Pride reduces gay people to a kink. That's what it does. Clarity, you're the kinky person here. You come in on this. Clarity, do you not think that gay Pride or Pride parades...
I'm not kinky.
reduces people to a kink, Clarity?
Yeah, I can see how easily looking from the outside in is that the reason why you don't have a whole month for St. Patrick's Day, because one's a piss up celebrating a Welsh monk driving snakes out of the island. The other is a movement that represents civil rights. It started in 1969 as a transgender woman was attacked in Stonewall, New York City. That started the Stonewall riots, that started Christopher Street West and all the organizations that became Pride, was the LGBTQ community standing up for each other because they were being attacked. So the reason why Pride is still important is
but hold on. But hang on, Clarity. Women's rights are important, and when the first woman, stood up for women's rights, and the suffragettes stood up for women's rights and the right for women to vote. But we have an International Women's Day. We don't celebrate it all year round. Men's rights are important. We have an International Men's Day. I couldn't even tell you when it is, but we have an International Men's Day because I don't think men bother celebrating it. We're not interested. We probably just forget the date. But in saying that, what I'm saying is we don't celebrate it for a whole year. I think what you're doing is undoing everything that's already been done by going over it so much and by kind of what people will say and the hetero people will say, pushing it in their faces.
I disagree, and let me explain why. You hit on a subject which I think is such a good apropos example, is women's rights. In America, because I'm Irish American, in America right now, women have less rights when it comes to reproductive or personal health care than they did during my grandmother's lifetime, my great-grandmother's lifetime. When my great-grandmother was alive, women had more reproductive rights than they do in America.
You're talking about abortion,
today.
Yeah.
I'm talking about not just that. I'm talking about all kinds of things that are happening in America. Without changing the subject, I don't want to get down this road, but I want to take this point and extrapolate it to Pride and LGBTQ rights, which is that when you lose vigilance, it's a sounding board because rights can never be taken for granted. You always have to advocate. We're in the fourth wave of feminism. First wave started with the suffragettes. Now we're in the fourth wave. And they can so quick backslide. I can tell you America is example number one when it comes to women's rights. We're in fourth wave feminism. Why the hell would we even need to have a march, a parade, a month, some shirts? Because this is what happens when you don't. The rise of populism, the rise of ultra-conservatism, the absolute, like, basically America's turning into an oligarchy. And then piece by piece, vote by vote, we see rights taken away. When you have a movement behind it, an entity, it is much more difficult for society to do. And the sensationalism and the pageantry are to keep people interested, because otherwise it's boring and people wouldn't tune into the radio.
But it's not just pageantry, it's about sexuality. You know, if it was pageantry, I don't think people would have so much of an issue. It's about
sexuality.
The sexuality. The sexuality. I mean, the sexuality of homosexuality or of lesbianism is not what I shouldn't identify people. I mean, you know, Derek goes to work every day and he doesn't go to work in the nude or with a rainbow flag around him going, look at me, I'm gay. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, Derek.
No, of course, but that's because Derek today has the right to marry the person that he wants to be out and proud to, whatever that looks like in his personal life. But if that gets taken away, I don't know.
It's not going to get taken away.
About parades. That's what I said about women's rights in America, and look at what's happened in my lifetime. Okay,
well, hang on for a second. I want to bring in two other people here. Stay there, please, Derek and Clarity. Sure. Let me just go to Sean as well. Sean, first-time caller. Sean, hi, how are you doing?
Good afternoon, Noel. How are you doing?
Good. Okay, you're a gay man, and you also despise Pride.
Yeah, pretty much for the reasons that the other caller said. I think it's over the top. It's unnecessary. I think it enforces all the stereotypes people have about gay people. I just like you said, you go into town and somebody's parade, you see people walking around naked and in bondage gear. Like, that's nothing to do with your sexuality. You know, like, straight people are into that stuff as well. You know, if you've seen a straight person walking down the road in town on a random Wednesday afternoon wearing that, you'd have a word, like, but because it's June, all of a sudden it's like, you know.
So what you're telling me, Sean, what you're telling me is you don't have a gimp suit under the bed, is what you're telling me. Right?
No, I don't.
Yeah. So, and this is what I'm saying to Clarity and Derek. I mean, Derek, Sean, as a gay man, he says, this doesn't represent me. And that's what gay people are telling me all the time, Derek. It doesn't represent me.
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm very aware of, I'm a 59-year-old gay man. I feel very marginalised in terms of what is represented within the LGBT community, in terms of services, in terms of what's available in our social lives. You know, I kind of don't exist in the communities. And I can understand why certain people do feel marginalised by what is currently represented and put out there as the LGBT community.
But most gay men I know are not like Sean. It doesn't sound it anyway, but are not effeminate. They don't want to dress as women. They don't want to wear bondage gear. Well, maybe in their spare time in their bedroom they might want to, but they don't want to wear bondage gear walking down the street. And I'm sure Sean, I don't know what he does for a living. He just goes to work just looking like any other bloke. Sorry, Sean, you can speak for yourself.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Sean, have you ever been to a Pride parade?
No, they're just, like, I wouldn't really be into the stereotypical kind of gay scene, if that makes sense. But Pride, for me, no, it's too much, even for me. I think it's over the top. Like, don't get me wrong, I still think maybe we need maybe a day, because obviously there are still challenges for gay people in this country, but I think a month is just far too excessive.
Yep. Sean, thank you for that. Let me just go to Carl Dieter as well. Carl, hi, how are you?
Hey, how you getting on now?
How you doing, Carl? I'm listening to Derek and Clarity. You know, I think both of them, in some sense, kind of agree that maybe the stereotype is over the top and a month might be too long. But Clarity said it's still necessary to have it.
Well, look, I mean, you know that I'm very pro-sex. I make no secret about the fact that I think sex is great. It's one of my favourite things to do. But I find other people jumping around about theirs, apart from being fairly kind of self-centred, completely boring. Look, do Pride all year. I don't really care. It's just really boring. Like, how much do you want to celebrate who you have sex with? Because for my part, I don't actually care. I'm very focused on my partner, who's my sexual partner, and I'm sure that many people feel the same way. You know, but most reasonable people don't actually care. So it's almost like an echo chamber for people to do some, you know, self-aggrandizing backslapping on one another. And you know that to do this, they keep raising the bar, like to keep public attention, because most people are bored of this. Like, most people don't actually care, and it's not really a thing anymore. But they have to get into greater and greater exhibition and showmanship in order to make headlines. Because, like I said, most people including most of the people in the gay community, are actually just living their lives and worrying about real stuff and not this kind of, very thin wedge portion issue of it, which is mostly bullshit. But look, have your parades. I'm not going to, I don't want to rain on parades, but it's just pretty boring.
So it's gone from being boring to annoying, is what you're saying to me.
Well, I'm not actually annoyed for it. I'm just actually really disengaged. And now what it's actually had in a way is the opposite effect, because I would have been very strong on the belief of ensuring that people with different religions, different races, different ideas were always protected. Now it's getting so overdone that when I hear someone say, "Oh, that's like really anti-gay," I'm just like, whatever. It's just another person screaming at the top of their lungs because they want to be offended about fucking anything. So it actually kind of takes away from the correct support from other communities that you should be seeking, because it's turned it into a kind of a, what do you call it when something becomes more like a circus act than something serious? I don't. There's probably a word for it. I just can't remember it off the top of my head. But that's the kind of emotion that it brings out in me at the moment.
Sorry,
Carl, I'd just like to congratulate Carl on the Barbra Streisand reference that he dropped into his conversation. Very, very good.
On brand. Yes.
Yeah. Derek, can I ask you, by the way, and this is something Carl mentioned before, do you think LGB made a mistake when they hitched their wagon to T?
Oh, you're working me into trouble here, Mr. Boylan.
I'm only asking you. I mean, because obviously that's been quite prominent over the last couple of years. So did they make a mistake?
Yeah. It's all about. Well, I don't think you can say that. It's all about.
Well, I can't say it. I just did. It'd be like me hitching my hetero wagon to LGB. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't represent me because I'm a straight man. So I'm curious because it's a different sexuality. Yeah. It's a different, identity.
Well, no, it's not. It's an identity. I mean, people say, the argument, I suppose, is that LGB is about sexuality and TQ whatever is all about identity. So they are two different things.
So why hitch why do they hitch the wagon to it then? Because that's caused more problems, hasn't it?
Because that's how it started.
Okay. Sorry, Clarity. Go ahead, Clarity.
Sorry, guys. Sorry to cut across it there. But that's how it started. Marsha P. Johnson is a African American.
Well, you're kind of breaking up there. Go ahead, Clarity. You said it. Go ahead. Yeah. We're losing your phone, Clarity, wherever you are. Run up the stairs or out the back garden.
I think what Clarity's trying to say is Marsha P. Johnson was the person. She was a transgender woman who was attacked at Stonewall. A very famous.
But that still doesn't. I understand the point she's making.
That's how it started.
Oh no, I know. I'm aware of that.
But it represents what is not the mainstream. Those of us who don't identify as the mainstream, and particularly when you think about Ireland, not too long ago, before the 1990s, was 96% white Catholic and heterosexual. Anybody who did not identify with that, we needed to club together and come together in solidarity, because together we have power. And that's what it's about, Whether I agree with it or not, that's what it's about.
Okay, Carl, do you think it was a mistake for the LGB to hitch their wagon to T?
Yeah, I don't really see trans as being a movement within kind of sexual liberation, and even within their own, within their own community. The majority of people who are trans, they don't reassign their gender. It's more of an outward identity. And look, with all the things around identity politics and greater and greater slicing and dicing of everything, I find that worrisome, because it's not really a thing in my view. It's a personal thing that isn't actually about being lesbian or gay, and so therefore it doesn't belong in the kind of sexual sphere. And equally, I mean, you can be transgender, but you can't be trans race, and I can't tell people that I'm 7 feet tall and expect them to believe it. So there's a whole area around an expectation of the change of scientific reality that I'm uncomfortable with. Whereas if you're gay, great. No one doubts that you're a man who likes dudes. No, and again, getting back to my main point, I don't think most people care. Get on with your life, be happy.
Okay, let me just go to before I go to Morris. Okay, let me just go to Clarity again. That Clarity, The problem is, for a lot of people, believing that somebody can defy the laws of science and biology for everybody is not a thing, right? Whereas, I have no doubt that you're attracted to men and women sexually. I have no doubt that Derek is attracted to men sexually. And I have no doubt that Carl is attracted to women sexually, because that's their sexual preference, right? And that's who they marry and that's who they fall in love with, or whatever it is. But I do have doubt.
Can I just clarify something there? As gay people, we're attracted to the same sex, sexually, physically.
Oh yes, sorry. Yeah, I'm not going to make it all about sex. I'm just using sex as an example. But whereas Clarity, when it comes to a man identifying as a woman, look, identify as a light bulb if you want. I couldn't care less. But I personally don't believe a man can be a woman. So, and that's just my view of it. Other people might have a different view of it. That doesn't mean I hate people, by the way, or I dislike people who do that. That's their bag. They can do what they want, right? But what I'm saying is, I don't believe it. But I absolutely do believe that you're attracted in a relationship or sexually to another woman or a man because you're bi, and Derek is attracted to men. So I do believe that, because I can see the proof of it. I'm sure Derek has had boyfriends in the past and you've had girlfriends in the past. So there's proof of that. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't need scientific proof of that.
I do, but let me ask you this. Do you identify as a Christian or a Catholic or some religious faith? So let's just say hypothetically you did. I would say, prove to me that you are.
That's a different thing altogether.
No,
we're talking about biology. We're talking about biology.
We're talking about human.
You're not born a
Catholic.
Catholic. You're not born. No, hang on, Clarity. You're not born a Catholic. You're not born a Jew.
That's a belief system. That's a belief system. And secondly, everybody would be equally upset if I tried to ram my Christianity down your throat. So why do you ram your ideology down mine?
Absolutely, totally, completely agreed. But what LGBTQ is about, what Pride is about, is the right for it's human rights, right? It's the right for humans to self-determine.
Just get back to the point you were making. You cannot defy scientific fact because you want your ideology to be enforced on my life.
Absolutely not. And then that's not what Pride's about. It's not transgender people saying everybody should be trans. It's transgender.
No, it is, Clarity, because transgender and the transgender community will demand that I believe a man can become a woman. They will demand that. No, and they demand I respect that. They demand I respect that.
Yeah, they demand respect. Just like if I say I'm a light bulb or a Catholic or a gay,
that's ramming a non-scientific belief down someone's throat. It's not human rights. That's insanity. It's ramming a non-scientific fact down someone's throat. Imagine if a man who identifies as a woman went to a maternity hospital and told them, I'm having a miscarriage right now, treat me. And the doctor said, I can't. And then they decide to sue them for not assessing their medical needs or something. It is actually a form of mental delusion to think that trans women are actual factual women. They're not. They're trans women. That's why they're referred to as trans women. It's not real.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we are going to Denver. Let me get back to Pride. Stay there for a second, all of you. Just let me go to Morris as well. Morris, hi. How are you?
How you doing, Niall? Let me bring clarity to the situation. Do you like that?
I do like that. I'm sure Clarity did too.
Yeah, listen, I just think it's on overboard. I sent in a photograph there just out to one of your researchers, and she laughed. And I said, well, there you go. There's a guy that's proud to be gay. He's naked. He's with his bike. He has 2 belly buttons, but he has a balaclava over his head. Have a look at the photograph that I sent you. It's unreal.
I don't want to see the photograph of a naked man with a balaclava on a bike.
That's exactly. He's standing beside his bike. He's 6'2". He has 2 belly buttons and he has a balaclava on him.
All I want to know is there a saddle on the bike. That's all I want to know.
There's a saddle on it, but look, it's just gone too far. It's in your face. I was watching a news bulletin at the weekend, and 2 grown men with beer bellies stripped off and start walking down the street naked at a gay pride. What the fuck is that for?
Yeah. And by the way, Morris, I've heard you on talking about gay men in the past, and you have no issue whatsoever. You voted yes to marriage equality.
No.
Yeah. But
exactly, 100%.
But you think Pride is over the top?
Listen, you don't need to throw it in people's faces every day of the week and then get involved with stupid. Listen, if I stripped off naked in O'Connell Street or anywhere else, I'd be done for indecent exposure. So why should we accept it on their behalf just because they want to parade around the place and tell us who they are? Hey, get out and enjoy yourself, but don't be offensive.
Yeah, I mean,
men and women.
There's a question.
You go ahead.
There's a question about the allegiance of people who do that kind of thing to children and the right of children to maintain some level of innocence in the face of these very public exposures. I mean, no one ever talks about that. I actually think it's kind of wrong. It is by any measure. It's wrong to expose yourself when there's kids around. No one really debates that point.
Well, Clarity, you're the American here, okay? And this mainly happens in America. It doesn't happen very much over here, although I've seen some examples of it, particularly with drag queens bending over and showing us their particulars. But in saying that, Clarity, you've seen that in America. And yet, it's kind of like, as I said, the emperor's got new clothes. It's kind of accepted. And in San Francisco, I listened to a report from a guy there on was on Fox or CNN, I can't remember, one of them. And he said he went over to the San Francisco police and reported them for indecent behaviour. And they said there's nothing they could do. They said, this is what the cop said to him, pick your battles. Right, in other words, wrong day to pick this battle. So here's two guys in the middle of the street, in a public place, in a paddling pool, and one is sucking the other guy while he's peeing. I mean, that's completely.
Sorry, I didn't mean that.
That's okay, and that's completely unacceptable, Clarity. I mean,
they should have balaclavas on.
Yeah, they should have balaclavas on. But the cops said they wouldn't do anything about it because it's pride. It's allowed. I mean, that's bizarre.
Illegal.
Clarity.
Yeah, no, I think we're having three different conversations. One is pride tacky? Fine. Pride's tacky. We all agree, I feel like, on this. There's ways to tone it down to have it be a little bit more tasteful. Two, can children and other people who go to these things consent? The assumption is by going there, they are consenting. But again, this goes back to the first point, which is it tacky? Is there a more tasteful way to do it? And I think we're all agreed on this point. The point is, do we still need pride?
In the London Pride Parade, they were walking around handing out cock-flavoured lollipops.
No, can I just ask
not flavoured, shaped. Sorry, I do apologise.
I just ask clarity. Do you think that what's happened is that the message of pride has been lost? You know, and these sensational exhibitions are really not part of the pride message, and we need to get back to the basics on the message of the pride. You know, what message are we trying to give to people who are not part of our communities? And that should be the focus of any kind of pride, because
absolutely
people should be able to feel proud. You know,
absolutely. But what I can speak to from personal experience is that pride entities make more money during the month of June than they do the rest of the year. 90% of their incoming donations go to AIDS prevention. They go to sexual assault survivors. They go to safe sex education for young LGBTQ people. They go to health centers. They go to these really tremendous charitable causes that we all would support on this call, right? But they use the vehicle of the pageant to generate that funding.
You see, I'll be going down to Limerick Pride this afternoon. By the way, Niall, I've got a train to catch. But I will be giving a talk tomorrow on issues of domestic violence and crisis control from an LGBT perspective. And I think that's what Pride is about. It's about looking at what are the issues that are pertinent to our communities and how do we raise awareness of those during the Pride season. That's what it should be about, galvanizing people to look at the issues that are affecting us today.
Okay, well, listen, unfortunately, I have to go to a lot more callers as well. Clarity and Derek, listen, thank you very much indeed, and I appreciate both of you coming on and talking to us today. Let me go to Angela. Carl, stay with me. Angela, hi, how are you doing?
I'm fine, how are you? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. I thought you were going to say happy Pride. Carl said it's unnecessary. He doesn't know, he likes sex, but he doesn't have to promote his sexuality as a heterosexual man.
No, nobody does. Like, I mean, is that what Pride is all about? Is Pride promoting that you have sex with men? Like, it's not all about the sex. It's meant to be that you're in love with a man. It's not, you know, so I did security at Pride for 2 years in Dublin. And by God, was it an eye-opener. You know, I mean, and I hear a lot of people saying, no, it's lovely to know you can bring your family. I can guarantee you I wouldn't bring my niece or nephews anywhere near that when they were younger. Not a hope in hell. I've never seen so many drugs. I've never seen so much drinking. I actually saw 2 guys having sex behind a bin down in Smithfield. I saw 2 guys doing things that they shouldn't be doing. I'm not going into it because this is a show, but no. And it's not, yes, they're flamboyant, they're this, but there's flamboyance and there's downright disrespect for people who you want. And I hate having to say that we have to accept them. It's not that. I've always said that with my cousins. I have 2 cousins who are gay, and I've always said I hate that they had to come out. They shouldn't have to come out. It should be, here's my boyfriend. But you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't want to go around the streets and promote what way you have sex. Because that's all it is. That's what it seems to be. Pride has gone beyond this now. Pride isn't, it's not, I love a man. Now it's like, this is what I do with him. This is how we do it. I love a woman. This is how we do it. This is what we do. And that's not what it's meant to be.
I mean, Carol, has it gone past the point of what it was meant to be? And it is a protest, by the way. Pride is not just a celebration, it's a protest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like if I was to actually think about it, I would see Pride as being something that needs to galvanize in the places where gay people aren't safe, aren't respected, aren't allowed to live their lives. And that's basically most of the Muslim world, because there's no Muslim country where marriage between a same-sex couple is legal, and homosexuality isn't actually legal anywhere in the Muslim world, other than, I think, Jordan and maybe one of the United Arab Emirates countries. But here's another interesting thing. In the Quran, which never went through any kind of modernization, the penalty for being gay is still to kill someone. And in fact, people are regularly killed in Muslim-majority countries for being gay. You also get killed for leaving the faith and a host of other things. But these are the places that we need to be thinking. That's why when I see...
that's only people's interpretation of a holy book. I mean, you could argue the same about the Bible, by the way. The original Bible sent to different houses, though, as well.
But there was a reformation in Christianity. Islam never underwent a reformation. My point is that in Christian countries, gay people now largely are accepted, are able to, form lasting marriage-style relationships. It exists nowhere in the Muslim world. And if you wanted to have your pronouns, if you lived in Palestine, it would be was and were, because it kill your ass for being gay. And this is the important thing, is we need to galvanize this kind of energy into places where you're not allowed to have freedom of your own choice of relationships, where you're not allowed to have freedom over who you choose to marry and form the future of your life with. That's the great tragedy. So instead we get into greater and greater acts of exhibitionist behavior, which actually diminishes people's support for this, which I've explained myself already, and instead it's taken away into greater forms of showmanship, which actually don't achieve much, because with that kind of 99% of acceptance, which is all you can ever hope to have with anything, more people accept, gay people as just being just like them than there are people at this stage in Ireland who would go to church. Yeah, no one cares. Like it's a non-topic.
Yeah, sorry, Angela.
Don't do it in North Africa.
You go ahead, Angela.
It's just been normal. Like, if I'm walking down the street and I see 2 guys kissing, I get the ick. But if I walk down the street and see a guy and a girl kissing, I get the ick. It's not because they're gay. I'm just going, lads, keep it for the second bedroom. It doesn't matter who you are.
What, you don't like public displays of affection?
I don't mind people holding hands. I don't mind hugging. I don't mind a kiss on the cheek. But Jesus, slobbering all over each other. You're like, would you get a room?
You're just jealous.
Whether it's... No, I'm not. I was never...
That wouldn't bother me at all.
Oh, it does. I'm just like, but that's just me. But it's not because it's 2 men. It's not because it's 2 women. It's not because it's a man and a woman. It's just it's the whole circle of it. I don't like it.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong now. As long as they're not having sex now, if they're giving each other a blowjob, or if they were having sex in the middle of the park or whatever it is on a Sunday afternoon, I'd be a little bit upset about that, because obviously there's children around.
A little bit upset, would you?
I'm just saying I'd be a bit upset at that, because there might be children around. I mean, you have to pick your time and place, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I don't mind people kissing in public.
And that's it. And I don't understand how, like, as we say, gay people have fought for years to, to be able to get married, to be able to be together, and they used to have Pride Day for that. And now that they have that, they're never going to have it 100% in any country. Not right now. It's not going to happen, anyway, and that's very sad.
Okay, but by the way, will you be supporting next week? I think the 13th is Trans Visibility Day, or National Trans Pride Day, Trans Pride Day, or whatever it's called.
No.
So there'll be another parade.
No, I don't, because my whole thing is, and this has always
Do you believe a man can be a woman?
My...
Do you believe a man can be a woman?
No.
Fair enough.
But saying that, Niall, if a man wants to be a woman, then off you go. No problem.
Well, he can't.
If a woman wants to be...
That's like saying if I want to be 25 tomorrow. You know what I mean? I can't. I can't be. It's physically impossible for me to be 25 tomorrow.
You're not letting me finish.
Yeah.
But don't expect to have the same rights. If you want to...
Well, I don't have any right. I don't have any right to suggest to anybody that I'm 25 tomorrow, nor do I have a legal right to be recognised as 25, because I'm not 25, I'm 60. So, I mean, the idea that I could turn around tomorrow and demand, not only legally, but, demand that other people like Carl or yourself identify me as a woman, to me is quite bizarre in the modern world. I mean, if you want to identify yourself as a woman, far away, I couldn't give a shit. But demanding...
That's what I mean. But don't expect me to sit there and give you the same rights as a woman. That's what I mean. If a man wants to dress as a woman and feel like a woman, that's fine. But don't come to me telling me that you're going through your period. Don't tell me that, you want to go in a woman's toilet. No, I'm sorry. That's the way I am. Don't throw it in my face. But if that's the way you want to feel and that's the way you want to dress, that is fine.
Well, why would you want to go to a woman's toilet if you're not a woman?
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying.
That's what I mean.
But unfortunately, we accept that nowadays. That's kind of all acceptable. So look, people have just voted for the Prime Minister of England, Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer is a man who couldn't answer a simple question. Does a woman have a penis?
What is a woman?
No, does a woman have a penis?
God, yeah.
He was asked 5 times in one interview to answer the question, does a woman have a penis? And he wouldn't answer it. So we are now electing people who have no idea of the biology of a human being. Or feel that they can't say it because they might offend people.
They are afraid.
I guarantee you, if you went to Micheál Martin, if you went to obviously the leader of the Green Party now, Roderick O'Gorman, if you went to Leo Varadkar when he was leader of the Fine Gael, if you went to any of the leaders of any of the parties right now, Mary Lou McDonald, and asked them, what is a woman? They haven't got a clue. And I'm going to be honest with you. Actually, here's the thing. They do have a clue, but they're afraid to say it.
They do have a clue. They are afraid.
What sort of world is that? When you've got world leaders, who don't even know what a woman is anymore. That's
it is an absolute shit show out there when it comes to this.
Okay, hang on. Let me go to Tommy. Tommy, hi, how are you?
How are you doing? It's good to see you.
Good to talk to you.
By the way, you look 24. You mightn't be able to claim that.
Thanks very much. Yeah. I'm just looking at myself here in the camera. Yeah.
Listen, when it comes to pride, it's after being destroyed. Like everything, these movements destroy themselves. The likes of Black Lives Matter, Me Too, whatever. Well, gay pride was starting in the 70s and 80s. It was because being gay was illegal, and it was gay bashing and blah blah blah. Now there's a underlying liberal wokeism, victimhood. I'm so special because of my sexuality, and that's the way everybody is now with social media and all. Unfortunately for the gay people that participate in the LGBTQ community, they've been lied to by their own leaders. Their own leaders are telling them they don't have the same rights as heterosexuals. They're victims. They should be scared of this. They're not going to get jobs. People are going to look at them. And then what they do is they're only doing because, like the Clarity there, she does it because she gets the financial, that's her job, I presume. She gets financially rewarded.
Well, I'm assuming some of the ones that Clarity was involved. I know Clarity quite well. She's a lovely girl, but some of the stuff that she was involved with was probably in America was probably voluntary. To be honest with you, Tommy.
Okay. Well,
she has her own. She has her own business now.
Yeah. When I see McDonald's and I see Stephen Donnelly with the bleeding cowboy hat on and the umbrella on it's over. It's over. It's over.
I did see that. I did see the picture with the cowboy hat on. Yeah.
And there's poor children in wheelchairs, and you have to go. Anyway, back to the point. The point is, it promotes a narcissistic victimhood. And once the trans community got involved, and then there's all these different sections, they're bunching together, and they're saying, we all think the same. We all should get this. And what happens is, anyone that treads outside of the LGBTQ community gets absolutely slaughtered. I've seen it with Douglas Murray, who's quite a smart, he's a conservative gay English writer.
Yeah.
And he's getting death threats. J.K. Rowling, blah, blah. But basically...
see this latest thing in England, right? This demand that children, teenagers, be allowed to go to school as furries. Right. And I know there's something wrong with people. These are, by the way, children who identify as animals.
You know, in America,
the cats and everything.
In America, what they're promoting, what they're trying to get now is that a child can go to a school teacher and say, I'm thinking of transitioning, and say they're 11 or 12, and the school teacher doesn't have to tell the parents.
That's crazy.
But
I interviewed a guy here from the UK, a similar situation, who lost his job. The interview is on our website, niallboylan.com, if you go to it. And he lost his job. Kevin Lester was his name. He lost his job in the UK as a school teacher because he went to the parents. And because he basically drew attention with the principal and everybody else to a girl who was demanding that he identify her as a boy. And
we say it's a mental disorder, what's it called? Body dysphoria.
Gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria, yes. It was considered to be mental illness. It's not, the WHO guidelines, it's not anymore, but it still is in the United States.
Yeah. Well, look, it's no disrespect to people that are like that.
Yeah.
But look, like I said, we're bringing in hate speech laws, and we're bringing in gender laws and stuff like this. And what we're trying to convince, it's all liberal politicians that are doing it as well, because they want to get
but back to pride in itself. Okay, I mean, it's gone from a day to a month, and now it even goes past. It's like a season now. I mean,
if you need pride by ganging up in a group and promoting basic sex and that.
Well, they don't. In fairness, they don't all promote sex, but yeah, I get the idea.
You don't have self-acceptance or something wrong with you. You're a narcissist. The whole thing's narcissistic. It used to be about gay bashing. Gay people can get married, they can adopt children, they can do everything, probably more than I can do. I'm a straight man, I'm probably going to get beaten up quicker than anything. There's more fucking assaulting on straight people than gay people.
No, that's only with the nature of the fact there's more straight people in the world. But yeah, but you are just as likely to be beaten up, is the point you're making.
The advocates are lying to the people, they're promoting fear, and it's all a money racket. Like Black Lives Matter, like me too.
Okay, thanks for that, Tommy. Sorry, I need to get few people here. Bernie, hi, how are you?
I'm grand, Niall, how are you?
Good.
Why can't we have I'm sick, I'm done with all the gay stuff. I mean, I'm very happy
the gay
that
stuff.
What is it? It's all, and I don't know what I don't anymore know all the alphabet of all the different things they're doing. My thing is, why can't we have a Happy Human Day?
Happy Human Day, yeah.
Human Being Day. Like, we're all human beings. We're all, like, I'm very happy for the gay community that they've actually been, that they got the laws passed after years of a struggle and hiding and all the horrible things that went on. I'm glad it's out there, but I don't get the LGBTQ crowd. I don't get it. I'm really sorry. I don't know why you've got them there, his, her, he, she. I don't know it. All I know is there are two genders in the world, and if you have an idea that you want to be a woman, well, that's fine. But don't be rubbing my face in it. I can't cope with it.
Yeah, you're not interested.
Exactly. I can't. And like, there's two genders. I mean, I wish to. I know there's a rare deformity
intersex.
in human beings. Where they're
it's an anomaly. Yeah, intersex, which is we used to be called hermaphrodite years ago, but it's called intersex, and it's a human anomaly. And most people who are born intersex are usually male, by the way, because doctors will decide based on genomes and all that kind of carry on when they're born as to what way they should perform surgery. So they normally perform surgery on babies that are born intersex.
Yeah, like, I'm so sick of the world the way it is at the moment, with all this highlighting and promoting. The people are trying to get on with life. Everybody, young and old, teenagers, they're all sick of it. They're all sick of it. If the people actually listen to the people every day, young kids, teenagers, they're all fed up hearing about it. No, again. No, they don't want to hear about it. Okay. Move on.
And that's it, Bernie. Bernie, I'm the exact same. I am just like, I am sick to my teeth of hearing about it. And it's like, Jesus, it's like, Pride Month. It's like, no, feck off. I don't want to see Garda cars going around with pride flags. I don't want to see schools with pride flags. I don't want flags anywhere. Because what he wanted...
You don't want them anywhere. And then the gay people be giving out about,
No, of course they will. But you fought for equality, you've gotten it. So why don't we have a heterosexual flag and fly it up everywhere?
I think there is one. I don't know if there is one. Maybe there is one. Is there a heterosexual flag? I don't know if there is a heterosexual flag.
But that's what I'm saying. Heterosexual people don't even know.
I don't even know what the pride flag is anymore. They keep changing it. They keep adding colours and angles to it. And so, I mean, the latest thing obviously is the queer and the plus and the T and they keep adding stuff to it.
Please stop, because it's just brain mind numbing now. It's mind numbing.
Yeah.
Next we'll have aliens dressing up. It's getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
If you want to do those things, if you want to dress up as a woman or you want to dress up as a man, I'm not going to, that's fine. But when you come into the hospital, as I've said 100 times, and you have your penile discharge, I'm going to have to, I don't care if you dress the woman, I'm going to have to dress your penis. I'm really sorry. Give you the antibiotics for that area.
And did you see
penile discharge?
There was, did you see the video?
Yeah.
Over in the States.
Right.
Did you see the video?
Sorry, no, my mind is still occupied by what Bernie just said about penile discharge, but go on.
I know, but there was, but there was one of the crew on board was checking everything, and there was a guy sitting in a seat, and that wasn't who was meant to be sitting there, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm a guy now," and he was like, "Well, this says it's a female. What's your name?" And she just and all she had to do was turn around and go, "Okay, I used to be, do you know what I mean, Jonathan, and now I'm Josephine."
Yeah.
Not a hope in hell would she turn around and say my name was Jonathan. And she got kicked off the flight, and damn right too, because he turned around and he says, on the manifest, right here, the list of passengers, there is meant to be a male sitting in this seat.
Yeah.
Or a female, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And they kicked her off, and damn right too.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. If you want to behave like a petulant child, be treated like a petulant child. Like that clown, that very famous video going around TikTok of the guy that went into the shop and demanded the person behind the counter call him ma'am. Yeah, I mean, he was clearly a bloke. He was like 6'4", and he looked like a bloke, and yet he was going, "Ma'am, call me ma'am." And I'm going, "You're a moron, is what you are." And the poor kid in the shop got fired because of it, because he wouldn't call him ma'am.
No,
Sorry.
Go ahead, Bernie, ma'am.
No, but in America now they have drag queens going in to read to the kids.
Oh, I know, yeah. Well, they did that here too. Oh, by the way, if it, I was going to say if a drag queen wants to read to kids, as long as it's not something that's inappropriate. But I to be honest with you, I don't understand the appeal of sending drag queens into to read to children. I just don't understand the appeal of it. I mean, look, if they're appropriately dressed and everything, but what I've seen of drag queens is the sexualization of a woman's body, and that tends to be the way drag queens behave.
Why can't Granny Bernie go into the school and teach them about 20 years ago what it was like to get on, there was no buses after 11:30, or, you only had the shops closed on a Sunday. Why can't that be allowed to be taught? Something that actually is meaningful, something about a past that they actually would be interested. They could come and talk to me. I could sit in front of the class for a few minutes and listen to the little kids. Like, why is that so frowned upon now?
Oh, it's unfortunate. This is the world we live in. Thank you, Bernie. Let me just go to Michael as well. Michael, hi, how are you?
Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Niall. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, all of this is a distraction. And I work for a US congressman and a presidential candidate, so I kind of saw the inner workings of the politics of America. And that swamp reaches Dublin. I mean, it's a deep and horrible swamp. But all this LGBT thing is actually part of a Fabian socialist agenda, which they decided in 1848 was to destroy the nation, the religion, and the family. That was their big thing in 1848. And a book I encourage everybody to read is by a guy who's ex-MI6. I also worked for the security service as well, or certainly as a private contractor, a military private contractor, doing surveillance for British Customs and Excise. So I became...
Yes, you get around, don't you?
Well, I saw the inner workings of the whole LGBT thing in London in the 1990s. We were doing surveillance on the whole ecstasy trade. But it's all part of a Fabian socialist agenda. And the book I encourage everyone in Ireland to read is called One World Order, Socialist Dictatorship by Dr. John Coleman. One World Order, Socialist Dictatorship.
But Michael, that doesn't deny... Can I just say something? That doesn't deny the fact that there are men who are gay, there are women who are gay, or bisexual.
They stole that word, didn't they? Because gay means happy. They've stolen our rainbow. They've stolen our language. But we just have to be honest. I mean, I have friends who have been in that community and no longer in it. They managed to get out of it. But we have to look at...
but your friends are still gay. I assume your friends are still gay.
No. People do get out of it, and
when you say they get out of it, I mean get out of the political movement of LGBTQ. But I assume they're still gay. I mean, they just suddenly didn't turn around and say I'm not gay anymore.
Well, I only know one, but he's now heterosexual. And he has a family, he has children, and it was years ago in the 1980s he was...
Are you denying that there's gay men in the world and there's gay women in the world? Of course there is.
Well, they are. They always have been. They always have been in human society, and sadly,
fine,
many of them have suffered. Yeah, because what you do in your own private space between consenting adults, I'm not interested in. I'm only concerned if it's with children or with animals, and if it is, then I want to see you arrested.
Illegal. Yeah, well, that's illegal, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, but if we look at less than 1% of the population would be, homosexual. 33% of child molesters are homosexual. 67%.
Yeah, but I know the statistics that you're going to rhyme off there. Okay, and there are other people who have said those statistics are skewed by the way the statistics are gathered. But Michael, let me just come back to what we're talking about.
What are they proud of?
But this is what I want to talk about: gay pride. So, in relation to gay pride in itself, right? Do you believe that pride is necessary anymore? They will argue that we needed pride because it was a protest against the fact that gay people were essentially illegal up to the 1970s.
Most people in that community don't want a parade. They don't need a parade. They just get on with their lives. They don't feel they need to be hired to be a police officer or a fireman because they engage in just a sexual activity, which is still very much a minority behaviour. And see, what we're part of the whole Fabian socialist thing as well is that they're celebrating this, but we're quickly being replaced by a population that is having lots of children. The people who engage in homosexual lifestyle aren't producing any children, but they certainly want access to our children. And so this thing is being shoved down the throats of young people in schools.
You're talking about surrogacy now, of course.
Yeah, I mean, just your gut feeling is people in the homosexual community. It's something that is, it's distasteful, I think, for an awful lot of people. But some people are engaging in it, and we would rather them just keep.
Well, when you say engaging in it, engaging in what particularly?
Sexuality.
Hang on, I want to clarify what you're actually talking about. So when you talk about engaging in a relationship or engaging in the sexual act of two men together, or what are you referring to?
We don't need to hear about it. It's a personal thing. Your sexual behavior is a very, very personal thing. And like I said, we only need to hear about it if it's with children or with animals.
Okay, can I ask you a question? If you're walking down the street and you see two men holding hands, okay, walking down the street, or with their arm around each other or whatever, does that upset you?
No, not at all. I've spent I also spent 15 years as a war photographer, so I've spent a lot of time in Islamic communities. I've done 3 trips to Pakistan. Men walk around holding hands all the time in Pakistan. No, I'm not. If you want to hold hands with your bro, with your friend, fine.
With your boy? Well, no, it's your boyfriend or your husband or whatever it is.
I don't want to know. I don't even think of that.
Do you think gay men should be allowed to marry? Do you think same-sex couples should be allowed to marry each other?
I wouldn't call it marriage, but if they want to have a civil union, I wouldn't be against that. Okay. But to me, marriage is a Christian thing.
Okay, fair enough. So you wouldn't have voted yes in the marriage equality referendum here?
No, I campaigned against it. I was very much. Once again, it's a private matter. We shouldn't. We don't need to hear about it unless it's with children or with animals. But it's once again, it's all a distraction from this Fabian socialist agenda, which is about constantly fracturing the society in order to destroy the family, the nation, and the religion. Once you understand that this is all a Fabian socialist agenda, and we need to wake up to that. Okay, so this is a distraction. Peace be upon those engage in that stuff, but I would certainly discourage it. And when you look at the data, it's a weaponization of people who do have mental health issues.
Okay, listen, thank you for that, Michael. I appreciate it. You're entitled to your view. Many people might not agree with you. Let me just go to John. John, hi, how are you?
How are you doing now?
John, thanks very much for coming on. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say long-time listener, but just decided to contribute there lately. So
okay. In relation to Pride Parade, I mean, everybody thought it was great up to a point, and it seems now some people, well, particularly I have 3 emails and also a message as well from somebody else today who says they're gay. Sean was on earlier on, who's gay as well, who believes that it's kind of unnecessary. This kind of month-long Pride Month is just unnecessary.
Yeah, it's like I said to the girl that rang me back there, it's my issues with Pride, that I have a few issues with it, yeah, but one of the issues is not the sexual preference of somebody. It's everything else. It's the extra, And it's like too much of a good thing. Like that's the old saying, no, too much of a good thing is not good anymore. Like you can understand, like people went against the church from years ago, or they went against child mother homes and all the abuses in society. And there is a point that people need to protest or get out there and protect themselves, and because they're getting abused by the system or by society in general, right? But then it comes to a point where the revolution ends, and you don't continue on with your revolution just because it's, you want to rebel. It just makes no sense. It turns it into, then for me, toxic.
But that's what I mentioned earlier on, to clarity, when I talked about women's rights. Of course, the suffragettes fought for women's rights to vote and have a vote. We still have, to this day, International Women's Day to celebrate that. But we don't have International Women's Month. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but this is the point I was trying to say. The extra, it's like as if Pride it's morphed into something more. And when people decide to get involved politically, ideologically, there's flags everywhere. There's virtual dominance of many issues thrown into one label. Yeah. You're going to cause confusion. There's no more vision anymore. Nobody knows what they're really doing. So you have socialists, or you have transgender, or you have Pride, or now it's like probably minorities or immigrant, all thrown into the one basket. You're starting to say, okay, I don't agree. I can't agree with that anymore, because there's so many different elements. You're actually, you're blurring the vision here, and that's what's happened with Pride.
It's just turned into it's kind of turned into a social justice parade more so than anything else, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. And here's another thing as well. Like, people fight for equality, not special status. So, like, under the law, they have equality, and I think there's a toxicness in society at the moment where they think that government should be able to dictate. The bully on the corner is not allowed to bully. We have to stop that bully from bullying people. That bully is always going to be there. I mean, he can call you fat, big nose, big ears. Doesn't matter what it is. He'll pick something because he's a bully. And that's just what bullies do, right?
Yeah.
They learn and they grow up, while some people, whatever happens to them. Yeah, but that's always been in society.
Yeah, when I watched some of the Pride Parade there recently, or some of the footage that was online of it on stages and stuff like that all over the country or whatever, it was like, people coming up who were victims, and God love them and everything else. But in saying that, it was like this kind of victimhood Olympics. It was like, who's the biggest victim? And there were all types of different victims of different types of things. And it's kind of all just lumped in together now into this. So what is it actually about anymore? I think it's lost its identity.
Exactly. I mean, when years ago, when I remember reading up about the gay parades and all that sort of stuff, it was always, don't reduce us to our sexuality, was the slogans and was the sayings. Don't reduce us.
That's what they're doing to themselves now.
Sexual act.
Yeah,
but that's what I don't know if they are, to be honest with you, or the people that came into the movement to try and swing it to their ideological viewpoint, or to have the benefit for their agenda, if you know what I mean. They've kind of hijacked a movement to use their suffering as like an ideological currency, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely makes sense. And it's not. So in other words, it's turned into a kind of fetish parade, and we've seen that more so across the waters than we have here, thankfully. Although some of it I see here, during the parade here, I've seen men half dressed in leathers and all sorts of carry-on bondage gear and everything else.
Yeah, but
so it's a fetish parade. But that shouldn't identify somebody as being gay, by the way, because straight men are into fetish too.
Exactly, but the whole fetish thing, and the other way in the world, like this is the whole thing. What I'm trying to say, like, there's a point where you stop rebelling. Yeah, years ago you couldn't talk about kissing somebody, or like years ago, I'm talking about back in Catholic Ireland. It was ridiculous. You know what I mean? And then it became kind of, you can talk about certain things, and that's grand, and you can talk about things that need to be talked, healthcare, penis health, all that sort of stuff. That you need for life. Yeah, that helps society, and then it turned into this. Let's talk about threesomes and foursomes and orgies and mad shit and whipping each other and bondage and choking people. I mean, there's a point where you say, do what you want to do, but like, you have to have a vision for society as well. And when politics is getting involved, what is their vision then for society? Like a societal anarchy? Like, that kind of way. Where's the like, we do need social constructs.
Well, we do. I mean, we also need moral decency as well. There has to be a level of decency in society. I'm not coming across as a kind of Mary Whitehouse here or anything like that, but there is a level of decency. I mean, Channel 4 pushed it years and years ago, of course, past the level of decency after 9 o'clock. But after 9 o'clock, I couldn't care less on television what you do. But the same has to go for public streets as well. There has to be a level of decency. You stay there for a second, John, because I want to go to Carl. I know he's on his lunch break and has to go in a second. But Carl, hi, how are you?
Hey, how's things?
Good, Carl. Pride, getting back to Pride Month. Carl believes it's turned into a social justice month rather than just Pride Month.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the listeners there. One of the listeners kind of said that he believes that maybe a lot of these groups are kind of being manipulated into thinking that they're still victims and they need to fight for equality and things like that. I kind of agree with that point, But I do think the whole Pride as a whole, it's kind of like you were saying, it's lost its identity, its credibility now. It's kind of gone it's like fetish. I don't know if that's a word, fetishized, or kind of fetishization. You can see in America, you were talking about that before. These men was walking down with their Mickeys out. That is totally unacceptable in any society, whether it's a straight
public
man,
nudity is unacceptable in nearly every country in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But I think the fact it's gone on for a month now. It used to be a day, then it was a week, now it's a month. It's all commercialised now. It's bringing in money. That's all they care about, the people that are promoting these events. It's just all about the money at the end of the day. It's not about
most of the individuals promoting these events are all part of NGOs. So it's about these NGOs being funded. Yeah, so it's all taxpayers' money.
Of course, yeah. So it's not actually about celebrating gay people's rights. They just want to see the gravy train keep going. That's why it's going on for months now. I think the majority of people are very accepting. We passed the law for same-sex marriage, and to be honest, I think a lot of people these days, they don't really care if you're gay or not. You know what I mean?
No, people don't generally speaking.
No, and I think people care about nowadays, the kind of. The curriculum being brought into schools now and teaching kids, and I think that's what a lot of people are kind of disagreeing with now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the innocence of kids, leave them alone, let them have their childhood, the innocence, before they get out into the big bad world.
What concerns me about the curriculum is what they want to do is remove what they call gender normative, right? Okay, and let me just explain that briefly. So, in society, the idea of a man and a woman being together and producing children is normality, or considered to be normality, and that's considered to be normative, right, when it comes to gender. Yeah. Okay, the idea of two men or two women being together, according to the English language, by definition, is not the normality, right? I'm not saying it's not normal, because that's a completely different thing altogether. It makes people sound like they're odd, but they're not. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being gay, there's nothing wrong with being lesbian, there's nothing wrong with being homosexual, right? That's just whatever floats your boat. But if they start teaching children in school that the norm is not for a man and a woman to be together to have children, and you grow up and be together and have children, then that's not the norm. Well, then society has a huge problem going forward, because we already have a huge problem with the population of the world depleting, apart from the continent of Africa. So we've already got a huge problem in the world. And we're going to make that problem much worse if we start suggesting to people that going forward, this idea of man and woman being together and reproducing and having children is not the norm, which it should be the norm.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean, the norm. And you were talking about that interview done with that teacher who lost his job, who went to the parents.
Kevin Lester, yeah.
Outrageous. And look what happened here with Enoch Burke as well, that he wouldn't affirm a student's pronouns. Now, I know he went to jail.
But let's clarify that, because everybody is kind of that's a bit misleading, right? Everybody is going online saying he's been jailed because he wouldn't affirm students' identity.
No,
that's not the case.
That wasn't the case.
No, he's in jail because he's not cooperating with the courts. Now, and if I was Enoch Burke, I would deal with that situation much differently. You know what I mean?
Oh, of course, yeah. But the fact that he still was on a suspension was outrageous.
By the way, he will be back in jail most likely again in September, because if he goes and stands outside the school again in September, they're going to put him back in jail again. The only reason the judge chucked him out of jail was because they're wasting taxpayers' money keeping him in jail, and it's now the summer holidays, so it doesn't matter if he stands outside the school.
But I think that whole madness is why people are getting pissed off with the pronouns and this and that. And if you don't affirm someone's pronouns, you're somewhat of a transphobe or a homophobe.
Yeah, nonsense. I don't confirm home pronouns.
I think that's why a lot of people now are kind of just done with the whole kind of pride thing. They're kind of lumping them all into the one bracket. You know what I mean?
And this is where I feel sorry for gay people, in a sense, or bi, or lesbian, whatever. When I said earlier on, and I think Carl Dieter was the first one that said it at the show going back a few months ago, when LGB hitched their wagon to tea, I think it became a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay, well, Karen, thanks for that. I know you have to go back to work. I need to go to Karen. She's been waiting ages. Karen, hi, how are you doing?
Hi, Niall. How are you?
I'm good.
I am damn glad it's over. I'm absolutely sick. I'm just sick of it all. It really, somebody put up there a couple of months ago, well, multiple times, many accounts have put it up, but it's 165 days, I think, at this point.
What,
in the year where we celebrate Pride and trans and, Pansexual Visibility Day, Pride Month.
I didn't know there was such thing as a Pansexual Visibility Day, but there you go.
There is. 24th of May, International Non-Binary Day, the 14th of July, coming up coming up this week.
Oh,
then we have International Lesbian Day, International Pronouns Day, Intersex Awareness Day, World AIDS Day, Intersex Solidarity Day. It's absolutely ridiculous. But one day a year to celebrate your pride, if that's what you really want, if you're gay, I don't give a shit if you're gay. Like, I don't go around celebrating I'm heterosexual. Do you know what I mean? So keep your sexuality to yourself. It shouldn't define you. But we now live in a society where it does define people. And people love, like, a lot of contributors I agree with today, even the gentleman who wrote in the email. I mean, I think most people think the same as him too.
Yeah.
Most people think the same as him. We're absolutely sick of it. And I think it's a sinister agenda as well. You know, it all ties back to this left-wing sinister agenda. And also, it's only a matter of time, and you can see it now becoming more and more away. Before we wake up one day, we have LGBTQ plus M. It's only a matter before they slip that M in there. I mean, you now have TED Talks out there, you have professors out there advocating for sex with, of course, M
minors.
Stands for minors. Minor attracted persons, and you can already see that developing.
I know. I've heard them in the United States already that they want to. They said that you shouldn't stigmatize people who are paedophiles, and you should call them minor attracted persons.
Yeah, don't call it exactly.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Sick. It's sick.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for example, you look at all these parades. Well, like I have the same comments as all the contributors. You look at all these parades they have. I mean, you've men going around with their John Thomas hanging out. If you walk down the street with your John Thomas hanging out, you'll be arrested, Niall, and rightly so. But all of a sudden, you're part of this umbrella and you get a pass. And that shouldn't be allowed to stay. And then, of course, when you look then as well, if you wonder why companies and why we've all of these pride flags and everything else, because it all ties into the DEI hiring, the diversity, equity and inclusion. For example, you have all these companies that are all tied to the top S&P, the 500 companies, and they're all controlled by BlackRock, State Street or Vanguard. And if you don't hire these based on these practices and the DEI, you will be fined. So companies get fined if they don't include the trans and the gay and all of this bloody nonsense. So there's something more sinister going on in the background. But getting back, like, you know, if you're like International Women's Day, one day a year, go out. And the same with the Pride. Go one day, celebrate your gayness, whatever you think. I don't care. But there should be there should be none of these flags in the classrooms. None of these in government buildings. Because, you know, guess what? Oh, let's remove, what is it, the Department of Education said a while ago. We want to remove God from the curriculum and more sex ed. What exactly does that mean? If you take out God, now they wanted, where did I read this morning? They want a crucifix removed. In Cork City Council, I think it is. They want to remove the prayer. That was the thing. They want to remove the prayer at the top of the meetings, and they want a crucifix gone. But it's only, you take that out, no problem. If that's what you want. But guess what? You take that out, and one day, in a matter of weeks or a matter of months,
they'll replace it with a dildo. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the problem, you see.
Yeah, I know. I do understand the point you make. Now, mind you, I know in a lot of in public schools in America, for example, they don't have the prayer. Although I did hear somebody saying they wanted to reintroduce it again because
many states, if you're watching, they're keeping up with the news. Many states now are introducing it. They're looking 10 commandments.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Now, but personally speaking, I don't believe religion should play any role in a school. By the way, school should be for education, right? Religion, and by the way, I'm not disrespecting people's religion. If you want to do that privately, of course, to teach your own children to be good Catholics and Christians, or Jews, or Islam, or whatever it happens to be, you fire away and do that. You know, but
I would have been of your opinion.
Yeah.
On that subject, I would have been of the opinion like you. However, and I was like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you asked me, that's exactly what I would have said. But here I am now, a little bit more wisdom behind me, and I said, you remove God out of society, and now we're now in Satan's playground at the minute. That's what we're in.
But you were there's something I want to bring you back to, right? Commissioner Mann, who are now the new Broadcasting Authority of Ireland, and not just of Ireland, by the way, of Europe to some degree, because most of the tech companies are in Ireland, so all of the complaints come through the tech companies from Europe into Ireland now to Commissioner Mann. They've just upped their staff numbers from kind of 40 or 50 to now 400 or 500, and they're still recruiting more people. One of their latest guidelines, this is in relation to radio, and they do want to try and control podcasts as well. They haven't got around to it yet, but I'm sure they will. They said, and part of their new guidelines is, I'm going to read this out to you, training on-air presenters and hosts to deal with hateful and denigrating speech of guests or programme participants, including in our call-in shows, like this one, obviously. Now, let me be clear. There's only about 4 or 5 call-in shows in the whole country. And we all know which one they're referring to there. It's me. So, in other words, they want to decide, and I don't know who decides. Is it a Commissioner Man trusted flagger that decides what is hateful or denigrating speech. Now, when people do say hateful or denigrating things, when I'm on radio in particular, I would always challenge that because that's my job. But the idea that we silence people based on somebody's definition of hate or what considered to be hate is we're back to hate speech laws again. But this is commission and mob. This is the new rules.
And it's a mob, and that in itself is a mob mentality. You know, if you, like, for example, we won't be allowed to express how I feel. I'm not calling for, gay people to be,
Yeah, I know, I understand that. And I guarantee you, by the way, this conversation we're having right now, this debate we're having all day, and I've spoken to many gay people and advocates for the gay community in the air, this conversation will not be allowed to happen on radio in about a year's time. It just will not be allowed to happen. Actually, stay there for a second, Karen, because I need to go to Aaron as well, because he's ages. Aaron, hi, how are you?
Afternoon, Niall. How are you?
Good. Aaron, okay, back to Pride, the Pride Parade. Oh, well, it's not parade, it's the Pride Month. Some people are saying, gay people in particular, are saying, okay, we're okay with the parade and all that kind of thing, but like the month is a bit much.
Absolutely, Niall. I'm very outspoken on this myself. If anyone does see my social media, even in the last month alone, I'm absolutely thoroughly disgusted to see some of our own governmental bodies and indeed our own courthouses and government buildings flying singular pride flags, and some of them in which not flying any national flags at all, only one pride flag. I think that's absolutely disgraceful. I'm absolutely delighted to listen to a lot of your contributors here over the last maybe 15 minutes or so. There isn't much I could disagree with. I think it's turning into an absolute farce, Niall, to be honest, and I believe it was yourself that mentioned my biggest point of principle is the NGOs. We seem to have so many NGOs who are able to put out this pride propaganda, and this is obviously costing millions and millions of euros. Millions of euros. There's so many of them involved now, and I just think that money could be so better spent. We have fathers and mothers across this country who get 1 day per year. 1 day.
Okay, let me give you their argument. Their argument, Aaron, is that this is a protest, an ongoing protest for 30 or 40 years. That gay people are afraid to come out because of the homophobia in society, and the whole idea of Pride is making that visible and make sure that there's no shame in it, and to assist people and help people and support people from the gay community.
Look, I can understand it to a degree, but overall I think it's nonsense. I make reference to a comment that I heard on your show there a moment ago. Like, straight people do have fetishes, I understand that, but BDSM, I've seen in the last 2 weeks some of these pride events, guys in jocks and straps, and there's children being brought to this. There's a Pride event on in Dungarvan as well, where there was a major incident there about 3 years ago regarding the lifting of a dress by a man.
I saw that, yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
I think it's a bit much, and I'd say you nearly hear the irritation in my voice, Niall, as I speak about this subject.
No, I certainly wouldn't believe that Pride events are family occasions.
Not at all. And the curriculum that you referred to, I was a great passionate activist along that with the likes of Ross Lahive and Andy Heisman, and highlighting the books in the library. I did attend part of that protest campaign with those two gentlemen, and I read personally what was in that book. It took us months to nearly even convince people, and I'm very proud.
That was Juno Dawson's book, yeah.
Yes, indeed. I'm very proud of yourself now, and I mean that to you, for actually saying what you're saying here on radio today, because it took the likes of us months to even convince the public that this was actually written in the book.
The Late Show, RT's flagship show, had Juno Dawson on as a guest and never challenged him at all in relation to this.
It just goes along with our point, I think, Niall, that we're trying to make, that this is becoming a propaganda spin and push. There is much more behind this than, let's just say, the protest that you allude to regarding gay rights. I'm all for gay rights. I have many gay friends and relatives, and I think they have to be and should be represented within the community. Another great comment by one of your contributors was when the lesbian gay started adding the alphabet after lesbian and gay, we created absolute nonsense. An absolute farce was what we created after that. And the lady, I think, alluded to when T went into it. I don't even want to start on that.
Yeah, I think we mentioned that earlier on when I was talking to Derek Byrne and a few others earlier on. I think that's when it all started getting complicated. You know, when, as I said earlier on, they kind of hitched the wagon to the T. It became a problem, or became problematic for people because, I mean, as much as I have to accept, and I do accept people's sexuality, be they heterosexual, homosexual, lesbian, or whatever it happens to be, I don't have to accept that a man can become a woman, and I don't accept that a man can become a woman, and nobody should force me to accept that. But that's the problem.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
Absolutely, and it is nice because it is the problem because I suppose for the use of a better sentence, it's being shoved down our necks. I think there was a lady there alluded to the point as well that over 150 or 160 days a year, it's nearly half the year that there's something being celebrated along these lines.
I didn't know all those days that she mentioned. I didn't realise there was a Pansexual Awareness Day. I know next week, by the way, on the 13th, I think is Transsexual Day or Transgender Day or something like that. And I know there is other kind of days as well, you know what I mean? But I wasn't aware of a Pansexual Awareness Day. I think most people listening today probably don't even know what pansexual is. Aaron, thank you for that. Let me just go to Jackie. I have loads of people to get to. I've only got 10 minutes to do it in. Sorry, Jackie, go ahead.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to normalise it. They're trying to normalise this stuff in schools.
Well, no. Let's be careful about what we're talking about. There's not, you know, when you say normalise what? I mean, homosexuality or lesbianism is quite normal in society.
It's just like it's like okay, we all have sex, and that's okay, but we don't openly go out and as you would say, take our Mickeys out in the streets and stuff like that. So it's like slowly normalising everything. That it's okay. Well, this happens, and putting it in front of children, and that, and they're doing this in schools. And now look at the.
To be fair, nobody's taking their Mickey out in schools in front of children at the moment. I wouldn't like to think so.
Not yet.
No, they will be arrested if they do so.
But it's
different in America. America seems to be a mad place altogether.
But no, we're as equal the way things are going now. It's gone absolutely.
Oh no, I couldn't believe when I saw that thing in San Francisco. I saw the video of it and the guy reporting on it, right? And there were lads and a woman peeing on a guy's head, right? Another lad with his John Thomas, as somebody called it earlier on, in a fella's mouth, pissing in his mouth, right? In the middle of the street in a paddling pool at a Pride event, right? And so people went over to the police, the local San Francisco police, and said, listen, can you do something about this? There's children around. And the words back from the police was, not today, pick your battles. In other words, it's acceptable today because it's pride.
It's acceptable. Yeah, and that's what they're doing. It's normalising the whole thing. It's like the books in the library. You know, they forced that in there. And I read her 3 books, and they gave those 3 books to a lady who actually did a whole kind of a summary of it and passed it on to different people. And people couldn't believe. They're saying, hang on, that shouldn't be in the library. And going, that's what the protests are all about. But you had all these.
By the way, I know if somebody wants to put a book in the library about fisting blokes or or whatever it is or whatever floats your boat, right?
Yeah.
I don't care. Put it in the over 18 section. That's fine. That's your book.
Yeah, but you know what?
But not in the kids section. I know it's kids section.
It was in Healthy Ireland's section in our library in Portumna. It was in Healthy Ireland section. That's where it was.
No, it should be in an adult section.
100% it should be, and yes, that's common sense. But yet, it's not. It seems to fall. I don't know. People don't understand it, and you have all these people coming out saying, "Oh, we shouldn't be kind of jumping up and down about books and libraries." And these are parents who have young kids, and you're.
Now, I did hear some people say the books should be banned. They shouldn't be banned. I don't agree with banning any books. All books should be available. It doesn't matter what it's about.
But again, as you say, it should be in the adult
appropriate section. Yeah, of course.
Yes, 100%.
And by the way, it certainly shouldn't be used in a school to teach children.
Yeah, but
which was a suggestion. I don't think it is the case now, but it was a suggestion at some point.
So the other side, that if you look the way you take Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, and all that, it's everyone now that's kind of head of these, or leader of these parties, going to be a gay person. Are we going down that road as well? That suddenly someone who's heterosexual is someone who is normal.
Yeah, but you are going to have a situation when you think, because people are not afraid to come out anymore about their sexuality, and that's all fine, well and good. But you are going to have a situation now that a percentage of the population, and a reasonably big percentage of the population, I think it's 6% is the quotation, are either gay or identify as either gay or bisexual. So that means statistically 7% or 6% of the politicians in this country will be gay. That's fine, isn't it?
Oh. Well, yeah, that's another debate. Maybe that's another topic you should look at.
Okay, well, we'll stay there. Hang on, let me just go to Norman as well. Norman, hi, how are you? I've got 5 minutes here. Go on, no, I have to go to John and James as well. Yeah, go ahead, Norman.
Yeah, I think to be honest with you, it all comes back down to common sense and real tolerance of each other and other people's opinions.
Yeah, but now in fairness, Norman, you were on the air with us going back 6 months ago, and you told us that a man can be a woman.
No, I didn't say that per se. I just said there's a difference and I still do believe in that psychologically or mentally, it's not just gender or biologically determined. So I definitely do. You have a thing called also.
But when I asked you a simple question, can a woman have a penis, and you wouldn't answer it.
No, because I think that's far too black and white. Things aren't black and white. I wish they were.
Yeah, well, they're black and white in my mind. A woman can't have a penis, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, fair enough.
She has a vagina.
There's different types of women.
There isn't different types of women. There's only one type of woman. Well, go on. That's your view. You go on. Make the point. Back to pride.
Sorry, go on.
Back to pride. Do you think pride for a month is a bit kind of counterproductive?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it like 10, 20 years ago, that was definitely needed, or longer. Unfortunately, now nowadays, fortunately, we're more accepting of people. I think we always were quite tolerant, just as church wouldn't allow us to be, and politicians follow what the church told them to do. So luckily that has changed now. So the need for it is much less. I don't think you should, we all have different opinions, be it in politics or economics or whatever. And you have to tolerate other people's views on that. But that means you also have to be if you want to be respected, you also have to respect others,
Yeah.
I worked in
you don't have to respect everything, by the way. I mean, when I'm saying you don't have to respect everything,
I mean,
you don't have to. You don't have to respect other people's views. You can disagree with them.
No. But I lived a long time in Holland, and they're quite tolerant. It doesn't mean they accept you, but they are tolerant. So that means listening to another person and thinking about their view and coming up with an argument up. If you are form of reasoning, if you don't agree with them, it doesn't mean like lately. I was out to see some good friends of mine, and we discussed this before. I voted for Claire Daly because I think she's a great, was a great Euro MP.
Yeah,
and the first thing they said to me was they were so happy that Wallace and they didn't get elected. And even though they told me we disagreed, we wouldn't talk politics because we disagreed quite a lot on it, and it got quite fiery the last time and it really got out of hand. So I agreed not to say anything. But then people come in and then come up with these statements, and I think, why are you doing that? You're not respecting my opinion, and how could you say such a thing?
The idea that we must respect each other's opinions. By the way, we must listen to each other, and certainly not, get into physical fights over things. But I don't. If somebody turns around to me and says, I think a woman can have a penis, I don't have to respect that view. I think that's nonsense, and I don't have to respect that.
I don't mean respect the view. I don't think you have to agree with the view. But a person says to me if they believe in flat Earth, I'll listen to them, and then I'll come up with an argument why it isn't a flat Earth. I don't go off.
Yeah, but you don't respect the view that it's a flat Earth. You think I'm assuming you think most people who think it's a flat Earth are crazy.
I think it's funny.
Yeah,
but I think. But a lot of
equally, I think somebody who says that a woman has a penis or can have a penis, I think is funny too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because they don't.
Sure, and fair enough.
But isn't this the funny thing? Look at the mad world we live in. We now have the Prime Minister of England who thinks women can have penises.
Yeah. Well, you're not talking about Starmer, are you?
Yeah, he is. He's the leader of a country. The leader of a country, and he believes that a woman can have a penis.
Starmer is a Chamalon.
Yeah.
He just blends in the background wherever it is.
He won't last long. He'll be there 6 months and he'll be gone.
Yeah, he had the thing on yesterday about promises. He made so many promises over the last 3 or 4 years. He was Corbyn's best friend, and now he won't even talk to him.
Yeah, no, he'll be gone. I'll put money on it. He'll be gone, and actually, I think he'll be gone in less than 6 months. I don't think he'll last 6 months. The only reason the British public voted him because they didn't want Rishi Sunak in again. So he was he was a Hobson's choice. So,
yeah.
So he'll be
exactly.
gone. I've put money on with a friend of mine actually that Nigel Farage will be the Prime Minister of England by next March.
But that's another thing.
That'll be interesting. And by the way, Marine Le Pen was nearly, of course, the French Prime Minister up to last night.
Yeah.
And only because of dirty tricks she didn't win. But stay there, Norman. Let me go to John as well. John, hi.
How you doing?
How you doing, John? Okay, getting back to the Pride Parade very quickly because I've got 3 minutes and I need to get to James as well. Go ahead.
Well, two things you'll never eradicate in this world, right?
Stupidity.
One is homophobia. One is homophobia. The other is racism. No matter how many marches you'll have, how many days you'll allot for this, that, or whatever, those two things will never change. There'll always be an element of there.
Yeah, there'll always be racist and homophobic people in this world, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's always going to exist. In 1,000 years' time, if there's another talk show host that they won't survive that long, they'll still be talking about those two topics. No.
Not if Commission Man have their way, but go on, yeah.
Yeah. Every single member of the Dáil above there, or the leaders of all the parties, bar one, Patrick O'Brien, is pro-abortion, right? No rights for the unborn, but they wouldn't open their mouth about anything to do with LGBTs or whatever, or books going into schools or anything. They all went along with that, except Patrick O'Brien again, the whole lot, right? When I asked for a pro-life flag to be flown over my city hall here in Cork, which I was going to commission and paid for, right? I was refused, and I have a letter signed by Enda Hotty, the city manager, refusing me. Yet they flew the rainbow flag. Recently, the trans flag was put up there, but no room for the pro-life flag. So,
which, by the way, is wrong because there are only something like 1 or 2% trans people in this world, well, in this country certainly, and yet 33% of the voting population voted against the abortion legislation. So you're actually more represented than trans people, and yet you weren't allowed your flag.
Yeah, and you know, like I mean, at one stage I was very much against gay marriage, but I changed my mind on compassion. Right, I brought the Christian in me. Allow people that you've only one chance to live in this world, right? And if whatever you want to do to make yourself happy, whoever you'll settle down and live with and marry, that's your own business. You're entitled to do that. But what I don't like then is the way that a lot of the activists, and I'm not even going to name them, they got involved in the removal of the 8th Amendment. They got their gay rights, but they took them off of the rights of the unborn there. They didn't give a shit about the unborn. But once they got their rights, to hell with the unborn.
You're talking about Panty Bliss, obviously, in Dublin Castle. Okay, stay there, John. Actually, John, don't stay there because I don't have time. James, hi, how are you doing?
Good, thanks, Niall. How are you?
Good. James, just finally, yourself, you're the final caller today, and I've got about a minute and a half left, unfortunately. We have to wrap it up. But in relation to the Pride, it's not Parade anymore, it's kind of Pride Month, and then there's a list of God knows many other days, visibility days. Is it all a bit much?
I think I agree with most of the listeners that it's like initially it was set up for something specific. It's after kind of transforming into something new now, and it's become a kind of a melting pot of a lot of different things, whether it's around sexual orientation, gender identity. And I think something that's not mentioned enough is actually the consideration around neurodiversity and other aspects of what's happening in terms of it just feels to me it's become a melting pot of a lot of different things now, and it's giving a particular perspective as opposed to different ones.
Billy sent in a message and he said, can't come on for this one, but an interesting point. June, before it was Pride Month, used to be Men's Mental Health Month, but nobody cares about that anymore.
And again, that might just show the landscape that whatever is kind of the big thing for young people these days, whatever is being taught in school. But a point I want to make that's maybe kind of on the peripheral is actually just that Pride kind of tends to kind of push or represent a particular perspective where there is other perspectives out there that sometimes doesn't get a voice. That part of me feels like in schools in different places, if one point's being offered and there's a significant, let's say, minority or majority that have another perspective, that too is talked about. Maybe it's different when you reference things like, let's say, flat earth, that's such a minority that opposition or the other perspective maybe shouldn't given as much weight. But when it comes to something where there's a lot of people critical of kind of the gender identity space, the overlap with the neurodiversity space, and I actually work as a clinical psychologist.
Okay.
So I can't help but see sometimes probably overlap between neurodiversity, autism, and this space, how it's all become kind of a mesh together. And it's not to say that anything necessarily negative comes from that, but it can, or it feels to me like it is gaining momentum in a particular way, but maybe sometimes not another challenging perspective or a more critical perspective that can offer something else to kids to say, maybe this is also happening, this is another point of view, and is that being talked about because of a genuine conversation?
I'm finding a lot of points of view are being silenced nowadays. I mean, critical thinking in itself, and you don't have to agree with people's views, you know, I mean, we've always said that, and I've always said that over 30 years of being a talk show host. But for example, you know, I had one journalist there recently who's very much in favour of climate change action, and the human beings are responsible for the climate and all that kind of carry on, right? And his demand is that the national broadcaster should never be allowed to platform anybody who disagrees with him. And I'm going, why not? You know what I mean? I mean, don't get me wrong, whether they're right or whether they're wrong, the idea that we only have one side of a story or one side of a hypothesis or whatever it is constantly all the time is wrong. You know, we should be able, the only way we've got as far as we have as human beings is because of robust debate and, you know, and having good conversations.
And that's a fantastic point, and I do think it's all around how people are choosing to communicate, to be really kind of selective with the words we use, even though it might be easy sometimes to be provocative or contrarian. Sometimes you can hear that emotion in the language that doesn't aid to the conversation, where I can understand why people get passionate about it, but sometimes that kind of effective interpersonal communication isn't occurring, and it's a back and forth where someone needs to step up and manage that emotional piece and just remain contained to have the chat. You know?
But I would much rather listen to a show where people are talking in normal language and not being protective over the words they use. You know what I mean? Like, and I'll give you just a brief example. I had a woman come on the air the other day, and she referred to her own child, by the way, as being what was the word she used? Oh, gone out of my head now. Not disabled. She didn't use the word disabled. She used another word, which we don't use any words. That's, by the way, that's how long it is since I've heard the word. But anyway, a lot of people, I can't remember the word now, but they would say that was derogatory. But she was referring to her own child who was in a wheelchair, right? And she used that word to refer to her own child. She didn't mean it in any harmful, horrible way. She was referring to her own child and the help that their child wasn't getting, etc., etc., etc. And somebody said to me, why didn't you correct her? And I says, why would I correct a woman talking about her own child? Do you know what I mean? She clearly didn't mean it in a derogatory way.
But that actually brings something up that's related, like that speaks to me, that let's say within the neurodiversity movement or within kind of the autistic community, this idea of kind of person first and identity first language, that is it an autistic person or a person with autism? And there's a lot of kind of debate where a lot of people would be kind of, I suppose, pushing the neuroaffirmative language in the sense that people should be called an autistic person, where within groups that we run, we kind of talk to the young people and say, it's up to you. It's up to you how you relate to this language, and I'm here to listen to your perspective as opposed to tell you this is what we should do, because I don't see my role as a psychologist as affirming anything. I'm not there to affirm or unconfirm anything a young person comes in with. I'm there to explore something with them and try to offer them a space to explore and to see all the perspectives as opposed to say, I think this should be it and I'm going to push that on you. And I just think people need to sometimes just slow down and not be too sure of their own position as well, whether they are certain or not, just to allow that space to breathe, allow people to explore as opposed to battening down the hatches and picking a side.
Well, listen, I got to thank you for coming on. I appreciate your perspective, and I thank you very much indeed, James. All right, thank you to everybody involved in the conversation. All sorts of views there today. Very interesting conversation, and I'm glad we brought it up. By the way, thank you very much indeed to everybody. We wouldn't be allowed to have these conversations, by the way, if it wasn't a podcast, because on radio, unfortunately, these kind of conversations will become null and void probably in a few years' time if we were to take everything Commissioner Mann says seriously over the last week or so. So I've got a voice note here too I want to play as well. Hang on, from Stephen, who was on earlier on. Hold on.
I can't come on, but I do sympathise with the person that's gotten in touch with you. Pride can be very over the top and very in your face and in some cases intimidating. But I've been to 2 regional prides now and they're lovely, and Dublin I'm kind of not all that fussed attending in terms of pride. But all of the other prides outside of Dublin are quite lovely and really welcoming, very community led. Pride is not for everybody. But at the same point, pride is still important, pride is still a protest, and pride is still a celebration of rejecting the shame that was imposed on us by society and upon ourselves. So, yeah, there we go.
Thanks for that, Stephen. We went well over time today, by the way. Thank you to everybody. Billy, by the way, mentioned his message earlier on there about Mental Health Month. Nuala says when you separate sex and human love and attachment, you end up with sex for sex sake. It's just lust, which is deprived of all dignity. It has nothing to do with love for another human being. That's a fact, she says. Johnson says, Niall, at the Canadian Pride, they had a lad in a paddling pool being urinated on broad day. That wasn't Canadian, by the way. That was actually San Francisco, but now whenever. With children looking debauchery. I saw the videos online. Tricia says, I respect Derek's opinion. Please ask him if he agrees with Pride going on for the month rather than the day of the weekend. I think Derek answered that, actually. He didn't agree with it going on for a month. Jennifer says, good afternoon, Niall. I'm totally fed up with Pride. Yeah, and somebody else says, I wish they just right off. Okay, that kind of sums up your opinion. And thank you to everybody who got involved, by the way. Thank you to everybody who supports us on a regular basis. Please don't forget, by the way, and support us, because these conversations can't happen without your support financially. We don't have advertising on the screen. Apart from this here, we get paid for every one of those that gets sold on our website. That's Trump, by the way, the Trumpinator. You can get them on our website, by the way, niallboylan.com. So we don't get paid. So the only way we make money is by your subscriptions, if you go and subscribe on our website, or please donate. Please, I would ask you to donate. Thank you to everybody who donated over the weekend, because we put up a little tweet and some people sent us some money. It's not going to be enough to pay the bills, unfortunately, but I'd really, really appreciate it if you can donate. If you want to, you can go to niallboylan.com. That's niallboylan.com. You can donate there. Anything from a $5 to $5 million. Whatever you want to donate, you can donate. Or you can subscribe and you can watch all our previous content, all our previous shows, all 250, whatever there is at this stage. You can watch them all there on the website by subscribing. And you can subscribe for $5.99 a month. That's the price of a cup of coffee for three of us who work on the show. We don't get paid. Honestly, I know you don't believe that. We all have our own jobs. As you know, I work in radio, although I wasn't working in radio for the election campaign, so I lost quite a substantial amount of money, and I'm now on beans and chips until I get paid next month. So please do support us. Go to niallboylan.com. By the way, I did mention we're planning to expand this genre completely, and we're opening a media company. Now, it's going to take us a little bit of time to do that. We need to get some financial backing, and we need your support as well for that if you can. You can go and kind of have a look. Have a little look at what it might look like in the future, because we don't believe, by the way, and I personally don't believe, when it comes to talk radio, when it comes to news and current affairs, that you're getting a fair shot at it in this country. I believe RTE, Virgin Media and News Talk, I believe all have their own narratives which are leaning to the left. I think we need a conservative news outlet, and we need conservative podcasts, and we need conservative voices to be heard in this country. And that's why we're starting a brand new organisation, and it's going to be called Retter Media. And it's RETTER, Retter Media. There it is on the screen, rettermedia.com. Go to the website there, have a quick look. It hasn't evolved yet, but it's getting there. But go to the website, rettermedia.com. I can't tell you, there's a lot of stuff I want to tell you about, but there's too much for the moment, and I don't want to fill your head with lots of stuff. But there are going to be conservative voices, and we are going to need your support, but it is going to be big, and it's going to be bigger than anybody even expects. So please go to the website there if you want to have a quick look, rettermedia.com. All right. And I was going to say don't tell anybody yet, keep it to us, but there you go, I've just told you all about it. And spread it around, share it around to your friends, share it to as many people as possible. It's coming. It's going to take us another couple of months to put it all together, but there are going to be familiar voices on it, voices that you might have heard in a while. And also there's going to be a particular show from a very famous broadcaster in this country, and I'm not allowed to tell you who it is because unfortunately they get compromised. The reason they wouldn't do it for us was they said they didn't want their voice recognised. So for that reason, we have one particular podcast called The Man Behind the Glass, which will be the first time in the world that AI will be interviewing people. So it'll be this person, who I can't tell you who they are Irish, and they are, well, saying they're Irish may be a bit of a loose term. Anyway, they are very well known, but they don't want to use the real name, unfortunately, because it may, as you know, the cancel culture in this country is particularly bad. So they will be using AI not only to disguise their voice, but also to change all the idiosyncrasies in their voice and the way they speak. In other words, it'll change words as well. And it'll be an interesting concept. The first time it's ever done, it'll be called The Man Behind the Glass. You can read all about it on rettermedia.com. I shall talk to you again tomorrow at the same time. Until then, have a great day. Happy Pride.
The multi-award-winning Niall Boylan Podcast. Listen live on Facebook, YouTube, and all the usual live stream services. To get in touch, just WhatsApp or text 085 100 2255. The Niall Boylan Podcast. They told me to shut up. Available for download from all your usual platforms.